Welcome to the League of Women Voters of Snohomish County Forum for Public Utilities District Commissioner, District 3. I'm your moderator, Valerie Kelly, member of the League of Women Voters of Snohomish County. The PUD is governed by a board of commissioners, which is composed of 3 local citizens elected for their district on a nonpartisan basis by the people of Snohomish County and Camino Island. The commissioners establish PUD policies and rates, guide operations, and appoint the CEO, general manager. Candidates for District 3 Commissioner are Ken Maertens and Tanya Olson. The League thanks all candidates for running for office, for their willingness to serve the community if elected, and for participating in this forum. We remind our viewers that it is the policy of the League to be nonpartisan. Therefore, we neither endorse nor oppose candidates or parties. We do educate and support voters and the election process in our communities. Rules for participation in this forum were sent ahead of time to all candidates, and they have agreed to engage in respectful communication. So let me briefly explain the question and answer period. Then we'll begin. Questions have not been shared. We thank all those community members who sent us recommendations about local issues. Each candidate will have either 60 or 90 seconds to respond, and I will state these changes clearly. We are using a countdown timer visible to both candidates. Time limits on answers will be strictly enforced. I will change the starting order for each question. The order for the first question will be Mr. Maertens, then Ms. Olson. So, first question, let's begin. The first question will be 60 seconds, and it is this. What qualifications and experience make you a strong candidate for this position? Mr. Maertens, will you begin?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and I appreciate the forum. I've always respected the League of Women Voters. I wish you still did the presidential debates. So my qualifications, I have 40 years of technical experience. My entire career has been research and development. I have worked on military and optical and sonic and lots of different types of experience. My experience in the Navy was as a reactor operator. I served on board the USS Jack, which was basically a giant electric generator. And I understand the technology, and I feel I have a good understanding of the issues that are troubling our ratepayers.
Thank you, Mr. Maertens. Ms. Olson, same question.
I have 18 years experience as a commissioner on the Snohomish PUD board. I worked for the utility for 22 years. During that time, I managed, I think it was 11 departments, 1 division, and I retired as an assistant general manager. I have extensive experience in the industry, not only within our service area, but within the state, within the region, and nationally in meetings that I have with senators and members of Congress on the Hill.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go on and start the next question with you, Ms. Olson. Timer, please set the clock to 90 seconds, and this next set of questions will all be 90 seconds. So, Ms. Olson, what is your 10-year vision for PUD?
10 years.
10 years.
I want the utility to continue to be, I happen to believe it is today, but to be valued by our customers. I envision a customer having greater control over their energy usage, the payment options, and actually more opportunity for distributed generation that they produce in their home. Our customers' electric rates must be reasonable, and I foresee that in a way distant future. I see reduced power outages, which is another thing that's a great concern to our customers. I see a utility that's financially sound, that it is fully automated system, and has made great strides in terms of reducing
Thank you,
I'm out of time.
Thank you, Ms. Olson. What it was. Mr. Maertens, same question.
All right. I have a slightly different take on the next 10 years. I see the business model that Snohomish PUD is using now, which is basically a power broker, buying energy on the market and distributing it and charging the ratepayers. Very little of it is homegrown, so to speak, although everything is pointing in the direction that that's the way we should go. In my dream for the next 10 years would be that the Snohomish Power District empowers the homeowner or the residential customer to upgrade their home with geothermal heating, electrical system that includes an inverter so that you can have backup batteries on in your home, and solar power. I believe that the future of the PUD is to help us manage a distributed power system that doesn't rely as heavily on external power sources. I'm concerned that environmental changes and the market will drive these prices higher. And if we can start to reduce our dependence upon these sources, we can control the cost of power.
Thank you, Mr. Maertens. Next question. How well is the Snohomish PUD prepared to meet consumer demand and state regulations for clean, non-carbon intensive electricity? Mr. Maertens, we'll start with you this time.
All right. As I said, the Snohomish Power District is purchasing power from the Bonneville Power Administration and other sources that are outside of our area, and basically importing that power and selling it to its customers, the ratepayers. If something happens to those power suppliers, the PUD will be able to go out and purchase power to keep the power running. But at what cost? The ratepayers will pay the price. We need to act now to divorce ourselves from the higher priced hydroelectric power, rely upon our slice of the Bonneville Power Administration because that's the cheapest hydropower, and finance distributed power in Snohomish County. The object here is to become self-reliant and not depend upon the grid that is getting older, and it'd be nice if we did not have to be subject to the market rates for electricity.
Thank you, Mr. Maertens. Ms. Olson, same question.
Would you mind repeating the question?
Sure. How well is the Snohomish PUD prepared to meet consumer demand and state regulations for clean, non-carbon intensive electricity?
The PUD is very proactive in this arena. And as a matter of fact, with regard to state legislation, other regs, we are far ahead of the target dates. And we are using a number of ways of advancing those things through technology that will improve the integration of renewables into the electric grid. And that is a 10-year plus program. We're down the road 10 years. We're going to be ready. We're going to be ready when it's needed. And we are going to get to, we're 97% carbon free today. We're going to hit 100% in the not too distant future.
Thank you, Ms. Olson. Okay, sticking with you for the next question. What is your position on removal of existing dams or construction of additional dams in the Pacific Northwest? Ms. Olson, you're first.
And I'm assuming you're referring to the Snake River dams. I'm making that assumption.
Okay.
Just as a side note, the Snohomish board took action earlier this year to not take a position. We're neutral on removal of the dams. And therefore, I must respect that. And I guess my approach to it is, I sure wish that we could come to the table and look at opportunities and solutions rather than finding what's wrong with it. It's been years and years and years of this. And what have we accomplished? Nothing, except lawyers are getting paid well. But there needs to be some resolution to it relatively soon, because once that is made, it's going to take 10 or 15 years to get this through Congress. So that pushes it out much farther down the road. I take the position of neutrality, as the board did, full board did, but I would sure like to come to the table and have more proactive negotiations with a goal of a shared solution.
Thank you, Ms. Olson. Mr. Maertens, same question.
I'm not sure about the answer to that. I'm more concerned with the fact that those power sources are essentially outside of our control, that whatever happens to them will happen regardless of what we wish to happen. The Bonneville administration, and they're going to do what it takes to survive. I believe that hydroelectric is very important. I wouldn't mind exploring its development in our area. I wouldn't recommend us to invest in other hydroelectric in other areas. I'd rather invest at home. There's lots of different ways to generate electricity. It doesn't have to be that. The main question in my mind is that what do we do if someone else makes the decision to take that power away? Or what's much more likely is that we have to compete with other people for the power that they generate, and then the price goes up. We should position ourselves so that we're not subject to whatever happens to those dams. We need to look after our own interests and be proactive here in Snohomish County.
Thank you, Mr. Maertens. Okay, next question. To what extent should the PUD continue its role in research and rollout of new technologies to meet the community's need for clean power? And Mr. Maertens, will continue with you.
Oh, very good. Well, I think that I've done R&D my entire life. I know what the risks are and how you mitigate them. And even then, you're not quite sure if what you plan to have happen actually does. What the Snohomish PUD has been doing for the past 15 years and calling it R&D is really just advanced system integration that they haven't done before. They're not really inventing anything, or they might be doing software, but that's a different category entirely. If I were to recommend a course of action for the PUD, I would say that the technology that they need to advance the system that they're delivering power to our customers with is readily available. System integration is an admirable occupation. The PUD has the resources to empower the private homeowner and commercial interests to upgrade their power systems so that we don't rely so much on energy we're getting from outside of Snohomish County.
Thank you. Same question for you, Ms. Olson.
A repeat, please. Thank you.
Sure. To what extent should the PUD continue its role in research and rollout of new technologies to meet the community's need for clean power?
I strongly support automation, new technologies, when there's a benefit to the customer, a cost benefit. And upgrade of the grid, automation of the grid is critical if to prepare for meeting goals, environmental goals, in terms of changes of the load for customers and introduction of electrification of transportation, and the smart grid, which is a project that's been going on for a number of years. I strongly support. I support integration. It's internally of our systems in terms of storm restoration, distributed energy, and just a number of things. And I support the program that the plan that the utility is on, and I will continue my support as long as it is proven valuable to the customer and cost effective.
Great, thank you. Next question, and staying with you, Ms. Olson. Should the PUD take a greater role in making broadband internet readily available throughout the district?
Yes. And it has, it became readily apparent even before COVID that there are segments of our community that have no access to broadband. And however, the fix isn't as straightforward as I wish it could have been, wish it could be. And the utility is continuing to work the issue. My decision or determination on being able to offer that to these underserved communities is based on the value for them. In other words, what will it cost to deliver this to a relatively small number of customers cost effectively? Will they be able to afford it? And there are other things to consider. Would we be in the business wholesale? Would it be retail? And it's going to happen. I'm just not quite sure in which form it's going to happen. And I'm not going to shy away from the fact that there are some challenges there, and we can't offer them something that they can't afford. I mean, I just won't settle for that. So it is on the commissioner's planning calendar. There will be, I believe, a recommendation or a report coming to us
Thank you, Ms. Olson.
Thank
Your
you.
time's up. Thank you. Mr. Maertens, same question.
Well, I feel for the people that are out in the wilderness that don't have access to the internet. It's kind of a shame that they don't. This has been a responsibility of the Snohomish PUD since broadband was invented. The fact that it is an issue today means that it's not very high on their priority list. The technology today is now off the shelf. I enjoy a 5G wireless router from, a popular company. Very good performance, $50 a month. I, as a ratepayer, would be willing to subsidize whatever it takes to make sure that the rest of the citizens of Snohomish County and Camino Island have access to the same resources as everybody else. It's the only way they're going to compete. It would be a simple matter to use some of those funds we've been spending on inflatable dams and do a study on what is the most appropriate way to approach this and institute it. The fact that it's not there means that it's not a very high priority in the minds of the PUD at this point.
Thank you. And next question, Mr. Maertens. What, if anything, do you think the PUD should do to promote greater use of renewable energy in Snohomish County?
Finance its installation. I don't know a single homeowner who, given the opportunity, wouldn't upgrade their home to be more efficient and less reliable on outside power. The technology is there now. It's getting cheaper, whereas over the grid power is getting more expensive. The sooner we convert over to a system where the individual homeowners have added value to their home by installing this system, with the PUD working with the homeowner to make it happen and coordinate the financing and the repayment over time, we could accelerate the conversion over to geothermal/solar and get ahead of the crowd that's inevitably going to be rushing for the resources and the equipment necessary to do this. It's just going to take one more disaster. It's one more huge rate increase because somebody traded and made a lot of money. We have to get away from the brokers who are more than willing to sell us the energy at a markup and saddle us with the price increases. We can do something about that. We can start generating our own power and control those rates.
Thank you, Mr. Maertens. Ms. Olson?
I'll repeat again, please.
Yes. What, if anything, do you think the PUD should do to promote greater use of renewable energy in Snohomish County?
The PUD needs to offer a variety of programs that we can partner with our customers to advance renewables, whether it be in the home, community-based, or utility-wide based. And it is expensive. I will say that I know that, but I actually do agree with Ken on that we need to look more to home. But in order to be able to do that, I want to go back to automation again. We have to have a smart grid that can cost effectively integrate all of those distributed renewable home generated or whatever systems. You have to have the backbone system that can cost effectively integrate it. And that needs to be there before we can go down the second road in terms of offering a more full menu of those opportunities for our customers.
Thank you, Ms. Olson. And next question. If elected, what ideas do you have for working productively with your staff, colleagues, and members of the public whose ideas are different from yours? And we'll continue with you, Ms. Olson.
In terms of working with staff, public, different ideas are what I want, and need to be open to listening, following through, having a dialogue, become educated, and take into consideration the various input from customers. And I think that the utility needs to do direct output with customers in terms of
Oops, you're muted now, sorry. There we go.
That's probably because I didn't have anything more to say.
That's okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Olson. Mr. Maertens, your response.
I've had to perform that responsibility my entire career. My engineering expertise was basically bringing a variety of different ideas and concepts together, negotiating amongst the principals, the electrical engineers and mechanical engineers and the optical engineers and whoever else is involved, especially management, and negotiate a solution. And I've been very successful at that. But mostly, I credit my recognition that it's important to speak to the people, especially your teammates, and make sure that you do show them that you appreciate their work, that you value what they bring to the table, and that usually means that you address the problems, they're not hidden away, you fix what's broken, and you move forward. I'm not that impressed with the board's efforts to be in contact with the ratepayers. I don't think that they're interested in helping out the ratepayers to the degree that they're interested in making sure that their business model for the PUD reaffirms itself, that it works for them.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to give you each and offer you each of you an opportunity to ask a question of your opponent related to the issues and answers you've heard during this forum. So we'll give you 30 seconds to ask a question and then 60 seconds to respond. And we'll start again with you, Mr. Maertens, to ask a question of Ms. Olson. Again, 30 seconds to ask the question, and Ms. Olson, you'll have 60 seconds to respond.
Commissioner Olson, after your last 18 years of working with the research and development efforts for the Snohomish Power District, tidal turbines, inflatable dams, the microgrid, Una Energy, which is just in the news, and the overruns and the behind schedule. I'm asking you, what would you do differently now that you've had a chance to see what happened?
I need more clarification, Ken, on what your question is.
If you had a chance to do it again, what would you do differently when it comes to oversight on these R&D projects that have shown no return and have gone over budget and have been slow in delivery? If it's delivered at all.
I would say that I would, as I do today, I would give equal consideration to a number of things when assessing the value of moving forward with a project. And that has to do with value to the customer, price, return on investment, and a number of other things. But what I think you may be getting at is, Tony, do you feel that you will continue to make board decisions? And that's kind of think what I'm hearing. And I would say that the items that you've identified are your perspective on them and not necessarily reality.
Thank you. Okay, and Ms. Olson, what question would you like to ask of Mr. Maertens? You have 30 seconds.
Yeah, Ken, I read the material in their voter's guide, and you mentioned a couple of times, well, actually several times this evening, with regard to focus on control over our energy supply and to more local generation be self-sufficient. And I wanted to, and that was also in connection with price of power, have more control over the price of the power that we sell to our customers. And I wanted to know, had you thought about how would you manage that replacement power for the power that utility receives from Bonneville? That is 70+% of base load for the utility.
Okay.
All right. I would handle it by buying the equipment and the expertise off the shelf. It is possible right now to install a solar array, a battery pack, an inverter, charger, make a connection for the power generator that you might need for emergencies, or a electric car charger. But most importantly, there is a meter involved that's able to see whether or not you're drawing power or delivering power, and the rates are charged appropriately. Now, the equipment that I'm talking about here is expensive, but it's getting cheaper all the time. The important thing to know is that it's coupled with geothermal heating and cooling, which is up to 80% more efficient than resistive air conditioning or heat. We could use, if we go ahead and front the money for installing this equipment, we use the savings from the geothermal to help pay for the equipment that has been purchased over time, and the customer sees their property value increase.
Thank you, Mr. Maertens. Okay. We're going to keep the clock at 60 seconds for this last question. So we're going to go with you, Ms. Olson, first. This is our last question. What additional issues or information would you like to bring to the attention of the community?
I would like the community to be aware and know that I, as a commissioner representing them, am very closely involved in regional power supply issues. And while it's removed from them on a day-to-day basis, they need to know that their future lies in negotiating major power contracts that will be terminating in the next 6 years. And the result of those negotiations will set the price of power that they're going to be charged. And I'm really laser focused on this because it means a great deal to our customers.
Thank you, Ms. Olson. And Mr. Maertens.
I'm going to have to ask you to repeat that question.
Sure. What additional issues or information would you like to bring to the attention of the community?
I'd have to say that Snohomish County PUD, under the auspices of the commissioners that are currently exercising oversight over it, are walking into a mess, and they know it. The last meeting that the commissioners had, they had a report about the future of the PUD and what was ahead, and the environment is changing very rapidly, and they are thinking inside their particular box. After all, the leader of the commissioners, Commissioner Olson, has done nothing but work for and with the PUD her entire life. I think it's time to bring in some technical expertise, point out alternatives that they're not even considering, and start truly looking out for the ratepayer.
Okay, thank you very much. That was our last question, and the League appreciates these candidates for joining us and for running for office. A recording of this forum and others will be available on the League of Women Voters of Snohomish County website and YouTube channel. Find links at lwvsnoho.org. We encourage you to explore additional information about these and all candidates. The Snohomish County voter pamphlet will be mailed to residences starting October 8th. Vote411.org, sponsored by the League of Women Voters, is another good source for nonpartisan voting information. Ballots will be mailed on October 20th, and election day is November 8th. Please be a voter. This concludes our candidate forum. Thank you to the team members who made this forum possible, and thank you all for joining us.